In today's show, Danny Marang stops by and we play a game. What's more likely? Anfernee Simons makes the All-Star team or Damian Lillard finishes top 5 in MVP voting? Is a whole lot of fun. Well, we're Locked On Blazers. Let's just get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts. Thanks for rocking with me this week, and listen to a bunch of chats with Danny Marang, host of Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan, wherever you listen to radio or right here on your radio dial here in Portland. Also the host of the Jack Ramsays podcast. If you missed my earlier conversation with Danny this week, they're waiting in your feed right before this one. Today's show, we're going to play a little game, What's More Likely, where I ask Danny, what's more likely? Check it out. Do you want to play a game?
I always want to play games.
All right. Let's play a game, Danny. This is What's More Likely, where I give you two scenarios and you tell me what's more likely. You ready?
Do it.
What's more likely? Damian Lillard finishes top 5 in the MVP voting or Anfernee Simons makes the All-Star game?
Ooh, tough one for me. I'll take top 5 on the MVP voting.
Yeah, it's really hard to make the All-Star team in the West.
Yeah, I was just going to say, God, especially the guard spot. It's going to be 2 years before the new crop gets to kind of slide in. But in 2 years, probably Steph or Dame or CP or somebody might fall off just enough for somebody new to come in, and then the new guys can come in. There's that new crop of guards where it's Jordan Poole, it's Anfernee Simons, in the East it's Tyler Herro. You've got this crop of guards where you're like, these guys can score. My God. So, and hell, Donovan Mitchell might go to the West, to the East. So
right, and Donovan Mitchell leaves. But it's last year, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard did not make it. A bunch of guys
did not make it who will make it this year.
Yeah. Right. So it's just really hard. It's not easier to finish top 5 in MVP voting than it is to make the All-Star team. That is not true.
It's just circumstantially easier in this scenario.
100%.
But there's a world where I see Dame sliding in there. What was his? I want to say his highest was probably 6th.
I think he's been top 5. I think he's finished 5th twice. You could look it up for me, but I
will keep it going. Yeah,
I I believe because this was when I was on the beat. So it was a thing to know.
Yeah. I vaguely remember MVP shares. I remember him being pretty close as far as getting there.
5th might be too high. It might be top 8. Now that I say that now,
4th, good sir.
I told you
2017, 18. He's got 8th, 4th, 6th, 8th, 7th. So he's that's definitely not out of the realm of possibility for him to be there. Yeah, he was 7th just a year ago.
The last time we saw him play fully healthy, he was one of the 5 best offensive players in the league.
He was the 2nd best point guard in the league.
Yeah. He had a 55-10 game in the playoffs. And if he had played defense for the first 8 minutes of that game, they would have won.
If anybody had played defense for the first 8 minutes.
Yeah. Also, Robert Covington missed a dunk and CJ McCollum stepped out of bounds. But that's sometimes it'd be like that. Okay, what's more likely? Shaedon Sharpe averages double digits or Jabari Walker starts 10 games?
I'm going to go with Jabari on this one because there's going to be a knock somewhere where he picks up games.
And he has a path to play.
Yes, to keep the rotation. We haven't seen whether Chauncey's a Terry Stotts disciple in this sense of let me keep the rotation the same. But most coaches are a part of the keep the rotation
because they like the first sub.
Yeah, exactly.
They want the first sub to feel familiar. Exactly.
Yeah, they want that stuff to feel right. If Jeremy Grant rolls an ankle, could I see Jabari Walker starting? Yeah,
right. Because it might be easier to play him the first 6 minutes of each half.
Control everything else. Yeah, that's
exactly.
not a hard thing to see. And Grant's not injury prone, but he does usually pick up a knock once or twice a year.
Also, he's just going to play. He's going to play almost exclusively power forward and center for 65 games. It's going to be a physical ask.
He's going to get beat up a little bit. And so if you toss Jabari out there, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, no, I'd probably put the line for Jabari starting at probably 8.5.
8.5. All right. If you're listening, over under Genius Ben Sprouse, think about it. Think about 8.5. Shaedon Sharpe's not going to play, is he?
Listen, man, in talking to those on the
they want him to.
They want him to play. Like
they do.
There is real, like, no, we're going to find a way to get him on the floor. And I'm like,
but how? That's the question. How?
Like the only way I see that happening is if they jettison Winslow and Hart. Like if you trade them both at the deadline for a no BS wing where you're not trying to like try to figure it out. Like I'm struggling to think of a name, like kind of think of a Rudy Gay type, like a wing. Like you can just, you look at him and go, that's a wing. You're not trying to like squint at it to try to figure it out.
It's the dude who at best is a power forward and at worst is a really small center. Like someone who's just like has to play that spot. Yeah. Because they don't really have that on the roster.
No. And then you kind of slide that guy in there and then they're like, okay, Shaden's number 2 on the list now. And then they find a way to get him like 15 a night from the deadline on. Like, because otherwise that's the pathway.
Otherwise, Damian Ant are playing 35 minutes a night, however you slice it.
I did the minutes breakdown. I got to like, there's like 6 spare minutes. With what's out there. And it's like, okay, that either somebody else in the 9-man gets a couple extra minutes, or you toss Jabari a bone, or you toss Shaden a bone.
Even if they go 10, I don't know that there's spots. If you GP's going to play, he's going to play 20. He's going to play half.
I got him between like 22 and 24 is where I.
Yeah, he's going to play half the game, roughly, give or take. Josh Hart's going to play half the game, if not 30 minutes. So you're talking about if there's room for Shaedon Sharpe to play, it's at the 3.
Yep, and that's again in talking to people around the organization. They want to play him at 3. That's
because they too know how the roster works, so they can't be like, we're gonna find him minutes at shooting guard. They aren't there.
They are not there. No.
Yeah. So I want to see him play. I would a lot. Like I'm.
I think we're gonna see a heavy amount of him in the preseason.
Oh yeah, and I think he'll probably get weird cameos like young guys sometimes early first couple weeks of the season where it's like, hey, we're gonna find 9 minutes for you to see if you can hang, and if you can, we'll
give you 9 more minutes next week.
Yeah. Or we're going to have a tough conversation with Justice Winslow. And it's like, and then kind of figure stuff out from there. Next one for you. What's more likely? Josh Hart averages 16 points per game or Yusuf Nurkic averages 4 assists per game? It'd be a career high for both.
Hart's not going to get enough touches. To be fair, neither is Nurk, but I'll lean towards Nurk on the 4 assists.
Slight Nurk lean.
Yes, because Nurk's career high is like what, 3.8?
Well, he averaged 4 in the bubble year when he played 8 games, but I think it's 3.8 or 3.9 the year before that.
I'm a lunatic, so I've actually got Basketball Reference up at all times.
Yeah, so, there you go.
So he did have that bubble year, and then it was 3.4. So 2021 we had 37 games. So before that he's basically 3, I think, when he's healthy.
3.5. Yeah. And he averaged less assists last year because it didn't work for him early in the season. He started to pass more when he got more touches, all of these things. So you got more out of him.
If they find that happy medium, could he approach that? Yeah. I just think the likelihood is pretty low.
Yeah, sure. And I'm with you. Josh Hart, 16 is a bunch. 16.
That's a big number. I think 13's like 12 and a half, 13's probably about where he ends up. If he's 16, either things have gone really bad or really good.
Or the Blazers are the best offense in the league. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. All right. What's more likely? Trent Watford is in the opening night rotation or Shaedon Sharpe is in the rotation at the end of the year?
Trendon is already in the opening night rotation. Yeah, so I'm gonna go that way. But I will say that if the Blazers get their way, Shaden will be in the rotation by the end of the year. Yeah,
I mean, organizationally, it's best for them if he's good and can play right away.
Yes,
100%. And the way you find out if he's
like, I was saying the stuff that came out of camp like before he hurt the shoulder in the first game, all of the guys that like when we got in there before we started talking, on camera, like. He's got something. Like they were.
The way Brandon Williams interview where he was like, oh yeah, he's good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like they did this with Ant. Like Dame was like, no, you guys are not seeing what we're seeing. Like in practice, you have no idea what this kid can do. And Trendon was like, man, you should have seen him when I threw the lob. I did my thing, he did his, and it was not what you see from 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like,
So
hey,
it makes like organizationally, the Blazers need him to play.
yes,
It's good for everybody. But like, you know, he's a youngster and they want to be good, and rookies typically are not good.
You can say most of the time that they suck. They do.
They're bad.
Like,
They're bad.
just,
Even the best rookies.
yes. They like, I am a give Evan Mobley his defensive player of the year award now kind of guy. And he had moments where you're like, dear God, dude,
Yeah.
what are
Last second half of the season, he
you
struggled.
doing? Yeah.
Yes.
Like it's,
But
yeah,
yeah, even
he's
Cade
the
Cunningham,
best.
who's going to be a star in the league, he was
awful.
Yeah, he was
Legitimately
bad.
awful the first 2 months of the season.
And then he got going, and it's like,
oh,
there you go.
There it is.
But that's with a ton of opportunity and a ton of reps. Like, it's hard, and there aren't like a ton of reps for Shaedon Sharpe if he plays. He's a small rep guy.
At least he's not a guard. Like, there would be 0 reps for him. Like, if he was 6'4", I'd be like, oh Jesus.
Yeah, at least he's yeah. Eat a lot of protein if you're listening, Shaden. Today's show brought to you by Built Bar. Best tasting protein bar that there is. If you're me, you're loading up to record a long podcast with Danny, and you're eating a peanut butter brownie bar, because if you eat a peanut butter brownie bar, getting 17 grams of protein, 150 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, plus it tastes great, covered in 100% chocolate. It's got that peanut butter chocolatey texture like a candy bar, but it's rolling with 17 grams of protein. What more could you want? If you're not into that, or you're into that, but you want to see what else they got, go to Built.com, see all of the flavors. They got some short timers here, like cookie dough puff, a marshmallowy cookie dough chocolate covered bar that's got 15 grams of protein, plus some old staples. And while you're there, you can use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll save 15% off your next order. That's LOCKED15 at Built.com. All right, so I'm going to drop you into the rest of my conversation with Danny Marang as we continue to play the game. What's more likely? What's more likely? Gary Payton II plays more minutes, or Nassir Little plays more minutes?
I'm going to go with Nassir right now for sure, just because, number one, I think Gary's going to be probably your 7th man, and I think he's going to cap out at most at 26. Like, that's on a good night. Like, that's
28 would be.
Yeah, things are ramping up. He's really, like, he's just proven himself so invaluable. You got to get him on the floor, man. Just figure it out. Like, that's kind of what I like about it. With Nas, I think there's an opportunity for him to not only play the 3, but I could see them like in some weird kind of situation.
Oh, he has to play the 4.
Either do the 4 or even go down to the 2 with like a jumbo wing lineup where they do like a Dame, Nas, Justice, Jeremy, Jabari kind of thing, where it's like Dame at every wing we have. Like, and as good as Josh is a better basketball player than Nassir right now, but Nassir is leaps and bounds physically, just a bigger dude.
Yeah,
where
if
you
longer
just
and bigger. Yeah,
if you just want to get bigger and longer on the floor all at once and just have a bunch of dudes to just get downhill and then Dame.
Yeah, they're like the same size. It's like not all 6'5" is created the same. Nas is a bigger 6'5" than Josh Hart for sure. What's more likely? Drew Eubanks plays 13 minutes per game, or Justice Winslow attempts 200 3-pointers?
Oof. God, that's what's I'm gonna check.
Okay, so I have it here for you.
What's
Justice Winslow averaged 3.4 attempts per game with the Blazers last year. Tiny little sample size, but 3.5 a game.
3.5 a game. How many minutes was he playing?
Like over 20. So like a big.
Okay, so cut it in half. So we're basically probably looking like 160 attempts.
Yeah, so 3.5 if at 60 games is 210.
Yeah.
The most he's ever attempted was in 2018-19. He shot 256 in 66 games. 203 point attempts.
I still think they're going to find a way to get him out of the lineup and get one of Jabari or Shaden in there. So I'm going to go with Eubanks.
Eubanks, 13 minutes a game, because when Eubanks plays, he's going to play a lot. I mean, I think that's.
And the realization, the reality is that there's going to be games missed by Nurk, and he's going to play in those games.
31 minutes.
He's going to play it's going to bring his average up to, 13 a game.
Yeah. So okay. I'm probably with you on that one, although I'm closer.
I listen, if Justice does get that many up, either Justice is having a career year or things have gone sideways again.
Yeah. When in 2018-19, when I was becoming a big Justice Winslow believer, and he was averaging like 12, 5, and 5.
Was that with Miami?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was like playing point guard and center, and he was like 22 years old. And I was like all in. I had fully embraced him as like the next weird player that I would love. And then he got health didn't work out for him and he missed a bunch of time and he hasn't been that guy. So 203s, Justice, get it up, put it on your whiteboard. All right. Couple more for you. What's more likely, 0 trades this season or 2 or more trades this season?
2 or more.
Yeah, I
think
so
that was pretty easy. Getting a chance again to talk to folks around the organization, they're adamant about we're not there. We want to do more. We're actively looking. There were things we wanted to get done that we just couldn't because we didn't have opportunities. Come trade deadline, with the way the salary cap is going to spike, I think you're going to see teams dramatically over the next 2 seasons trying to shift their books to try to line up for 2024 because of what's coming, because it's not going to catch everybody by surprise like 2016 did.
Right. Because they're not going to have a summer debating whether they're going to smooth it or not. They kind of know the deal.
They already know what they're going to do. And so you're not going to have just one team out there like Golden State with more cap space than God. There's going to be multiple organizations who are going to line up, who are looking at guys like Giannis, who is going to be in the last year of his deal. KD should be the 1 year left on his deal. So everybody's going to try to line up for that next year. So I think the next 2 years, the trade deadline is going to be really, really active of teams shifting their books around. And the Blazers have an opportunity to do that and get contracts that kind of make a little bit more sense, which is why I think they signed guys to what they did, was to try to be able to have contracts that made more sense going forward.
Yeah, I think 2 trades is easy. 0 trades is incredibly unlikely, but obviously, like it depends on how you count the trades. Like if they make one big trade that is effectively 2, it's like a little bit different, and you miss it. But yeah, two or more.
Do I expect 2 or more players to be moved? Yes,
absolutely. But I'm talking transactions, 2 or more transactions. What's more likely, Jeremy Grant signs an extension or Josh Hart is Jeremy Grant signs an in-season extension or Josh Hart is on the team at the end of the year?
Jeremy Grant's extension.
Yeah.
As good as Josh Hart is, he is the kind of player that gets traded 18 different times because he's good and his contract makes sense.
Yeah, no, Josh Hart's talent level means he's tradable.
Yes.
And everyone looking at the back half of the roster like, oh, Greg Brown, D. Luzada, but you can't trade players who aren't good. You could trade Josh Hart.
Yes, you can pair Josh Hart with those guys to add a little bit more money to get, which is what I think is ultimately going to end up happening.
Yeah.
Talking to Cronin, he very much believes in carrying 14, and they are not at 14 right now. They want that flexibility. So, do I expect to see a 2-for-1 trade at the deadline? Yes, I do. To have that ability to make something happen, or a 2-for-3 if they end up cutting somebody. It's gonna be interesting to see where they end up in the luxury tax.
Yeah, they're like a million and a half over. So
they're right there.
Could be some motivations. We'll call it motivations.
Yeah, I would imagine something is going to happen at that point, even though they're not on the repeater tax clock for 2 more years. I still think they're going to look at this go. We want to save that for next.
Depending on where they are, it might make sense for them to get out because it keeps the clock going and all those things. And also, billionaires hate losing money. And it's a chance to not only not pay the tax, but also get a windfall of teams, of tax teams.
Yeah. How much money did they get this year?
It's like 11 million.
Almost 11 million. And guess what? It's going to go up next year because Lacob's tax bill is going to go up like another 20%.
Yeah. It's like you're talking like if the Warriors are going to pay $200 million in taxes, I think their tax bill is like over 185 or something like that.
I say that they're 186 right now.
Yeah. Over 185. It's like, okay, cool. I'll take it.
Yeah. And that's just the Warriors plus every other team is going to end up in the taxes here. So
exactly. So yeah, I think that's real. Josh Hart, obviously the most tradable player on the roster, just like
hands down,
reality wise.
Yeah, because there's not a single team in the NBA that looks Josh Hart and says, "I don't want him."
Yeah, he's the top.
Everybody looks at him going and wants him.
Top 8 on every team in the league. Top 8 on every team in the league. Like he's Duke could play, and he could play in the postseason, all that. Like he's a player who will make teams better.
16-game player with the right contract, with enough size to be positionally versatile. It's a very sweet spot that he's kind of in.
Good for you, Josh. Happy for you. You're going to get paid. You're going to opt out. You're going to have that mutual opt out. You're going to get your money. I'm happy for you. You're just probably going to do it in another city.
For sure.
Okay, last one for you. What's more likely, the Blazers get a top 10 pick or the Blazers finish with a top 5 record in the NBA?
Oof. That one's top 5 in the West. You would have got me. Top 5
I know.
in the NBA.
So for context, the Blazers last time they finished top 5 with a top 5 record was 2018-19. They won 53 games. The year before that, they had the 6th best record in the NBA. They finished 3rd in the West. So it's not like ancient history.
No, but 50 is such a big number.
53 is a crazy season. I think we totally underestimate how crazy it is to win that many games. That is a great
the Warriors
year.
Distorted this.
They did.
They did. Like they broke the system. Like now you've got teams like, oh, like people were talking about going into last year. Oh, the Blazers will win 52, 53, 54 games. I'm like, are you insane?
Well, it's like not only did that happen, but the Spurs won 60 some that year. So it was like 2 of the teams in the league won 150 games. So it was like, what the heck?
That doesn't happen. I did the math on this a couple of years ago, and like the Blazers have won more than 50 games, like 13 or 17 years total. They're one of the winningest franchises in NBA history from 1970 on. Like, and they aren't winning 50 plus games that regularly. So like your brain's kind of like broken as far as like what a good number, like a 48 win season is a really good season. Like
absolutely.
So for me to say top 5 record in the NBA, oof, I'd go closer to a top 10 pick.
The thing is, the top 10 pick's so hard because so many teams are going to be actively bad.
That's
like
true. God.
So many teams are going to pull the plug.
I think you're going to see teams pull the plug in December this year.
Like not even the plug in October. They might pull the plug in the preseason. You know, it's like
one injury and they're going to go, nope.
Yeah, like so it's like I think there's probably going to be like 7 teams in the league that are like, we want to lose immediately.
The sub 25 win or sub 20 win.
Yeah, so it's
teams.
Like it's going to be hard to get that low because the Blazers have like a level of talent and all that.
Yeah, you've convinced me. They're closer to the top 5. I didn't consider
both of them are really unlikely,
which is like confirms like how like in the middle they are.
Yeah, and you know my hot take. It's okay to be okay. It's okay to be okay.
It is, especially when you're talking about building towards something different.
Yeah, right. And now it feels like, hey, they're kind of there's something in the future that they're building towards. When in past seasons, when it was like, and I think me and you were like texting about this, it's like if they run it back for a 8th year or 9th year with Damon CJ, like this is going to be a tough sell on the old podcast airwaves.
Yeah, we did that 2 years in a row. I was like, there's just no way in hell they are going to do this again. And then they did, and it was just, well, here we go.
Yeah, and I get it that people that say that it's the same thing with Ant. Like I'm with you. It does feel the same, but it's literally a different person. And let's talk 15 games in and we say, hey, it's the same thing. Sure, I'll bang my head against the wall with you.
Like I know what corner I'm punching out of here. Like right. I'm aware.
Yeah,
but I do think that there is a very big difference between Ant and CJ.
Yeah, I think I'm of the belief that CJ is a better basketball player, but that is not how this works. It's fit and it's skill set and it's the things you're best at.
Willingness
other people
is the one that I lean towards a lot more. Like, who's more willing to like not do the things that stop the offense?
Yeah,
and I lean towards Ant. Be like, I'm not that guy.
Yeah, we'll see. So I think they're somewhere in that 40-ish range. Like they're in the 44, 43, 44.
That's the number I keep landing on is 44.
Yeah, but that's good you tell me that because when we do those predictions, often me and you have the exact same ones. So we'll go on the radio and it's like, we'll go to Mike and Danny just said 44 and 6th in the West. And I'm like, yeah, I got him at
40. It's like we went on with Sprague and you, me and Gunderson. I think we were all like on the exact same number, the exact same place. I think Ashton came in. I think she came over the top. I think she said 52 wins.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So it's we need that positivity. Shout out to the little butts. We need that positivity because. So I'm thanks for tipping me to your I guess your July prediction for this team. So
44 is like my whole thing. When again gamble safe, folks. If I'm 4 wins over, or close to 4 wins over a line in once I do the math. That's instant money being laid.
Oh yeah,
that's just too many games.
Yeah, I think they're going to win more than they lose, and so that's to me they're hitting the over. And like we're doing this exercise, or we did in a previous episode, we did the exercise of like who, where do they stack up in the West? It's like, they're not one of the bad teams. They're just stuck in the middle with a big group with 4 or 5 teams in a big group of like, okay, all of these teams are right in there at winning slightly more than they lose.
And the one thing you and I think we're both we're both the pessimists. Neither of us really look at like, what if things really do come together? Like, what if Ant really is that dude and he does play really well off Dame? What if Nas comes into a contract year and is finally healthy? And what if Jeremy Grant kind of supersizes his role that he had in Denver, where he brings his efficiency?
What if those
back?
19-footers go in, baby?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, what if Nurk really does, now that he's been paid and he feels like he has his respect, is like willing to accept a role where we're going to let you single cover Jokic and you're going to look bad, but you got the checks to cash. So you're going to not pout and not throw a fit in the press conference afterwards. Like, is that stuff going to happen? I don't think that all of it's going to happen, but like, this is where you run into when you change things around, is sometimes you just catch stuff and it works. And there's not a whole lot of like explicable reasoning behind it besides they just come together that just kind of does stuff. And I don't know. I'm not somebody who typically tends to go that way because the math doesn't say it does, but they could.
Yeah, I mean, the what I keep coming back to with this team is like, I think they are talent-wise worse than they were last season. I think they have less overall talent than they did last season. LockedOnBlazersPod@gmail.com. You can hit me up. But the plan fits a little better. It's not your 4 best players aren't under, or 4 best offensive players aren't under 6'4". You don't have, like not a real small forward on the whole roster that you're trying to. They still have that hole for sure.
Sure.
And they still have a hole at the 4 for sure. Like they just don't have the depth of those spots, but they have more answers to the questions. And even if that answer is weird and it's Gary Payton, it's like, what? At least it's like, well, his bona fides are that he is one of the best, on-ball defenders in the league. It's not Norman Powell, whose bona fides are this dude's a bucket. It's like, well, we don't really need that.
You're not going to have your coach throwing a lineup out there in spite of your GM.
Yeah, like angry at management. So he's like, is this what you want?
You want 4 guards? Cool. Here's 4 guards. Enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. You won't have that. Hopefully. Maybe he will. He can still do it.
They'll be bigger.
It's true. Better defenders. True.
Like that's the thing, is they'll be bigger. Like that's just part of this. So
all right. So more things change, the more they stay the same. But I think there's some reason for optimism with this group. Danny, thank you so much for joining us all this week here on Locked On Blazers. This was, when you're listening to this, dear listeners, I'm gone, baby. I'm out of town. So if news breaks, whoops, enjoy the show with me and Danny, but it's not going to break because it's August. And
yes,
go check Danny out. He's on the radio every single day. Turn on your dial. 1080 The Fan.
It's still weird.
It is. And he'll be there.
It's still weird.
1080 The Fan. It's also available streaming on their website. Starts at noon. He'll be there. Jack Ramsay's, they're taking a little break because it's quiet times, but there's more stuff coming. I know there's more stuff coming. Danny has tipped me to the fact that there's more stuff coming. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Subscribe to wherever you get podcasts. Danny, thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. I'm glad we actually get to finally do this.
Indeed. Listeners, tell your friends about the show. Make it your first listen often. Not every day, but when we get back to every day in September, make it your first listen every day. Appreciate y'all. Talk to you soon.